I struggle to call him judge or doctor. So every time, because I'm very impressed with this man, I've been so Judge Hlophe and of course Skakani are one of my best jurists. Dalimpofu and I did say I love the fact that he was taken from the judiciary brought into parliament. So those who may not who may be confused about this, so South Africa, our state, our government consists of three spheres that are supposed to be independent of each other. So that's the judiciary, that's the executive, that's where the presidents are, and so that is legislature. This is the houses of parliament, the upper house and the lower house. Of course, it's also represented in provinces. I'm just doing all of this so people could understand that when you take someone from the other side to come this side, it creates a jam. And I've said the reason I love him is because he understands. He's a doctor. He understands these things, and that's what I love about him. He says the Roman Dutch law must be taken out. There's nothing mysterious there because they've been saying it, and for a long time they've been saying it, and I agree with them. It must be. And there are many things that I can state. I just don't want to do it in this podcast, but there are many examples that we can state why that thing is it's a oppression implementation by the oppressors. Colonialists are using that thing, and he says it as well. But here's something that he stated, and then you will see that MK party is leading. The MK, I said in the previous book, they are not afraid to come up with new ideas, radical, and sometimes we think they're not doable. So he says, we in Africa are subjected to this stupid thing called the Roman Dutch law. In Rome or in other parts of Europe or anywhere in the world, do you know them being subjected to Zulu Sotho law? Do you know anyone being subjected to African law? No, you wouldn't. Why? Because it proves already then it's a subject, it's a tool of oppression. They are using it to oppress us. And he goes and he talks about land, he talks about all of these things. You know, traditional authority, traditional leadership gives us an opportunity to understand what traditional authority is, what a king is. Because now we do not know. I mean, you can't expect me to respect a king while I've got, and that is the problem. I don't know if someone says, if someone is in donor, I don't know what level of respect I must give the person, because I've got a ward councillor that I participated in voting for. I've got an MMC. I've got directors, and I've got also have the mayor and the executives, and then I've got a premier in my province. So there are many layers of governance that affect me. And I know in close of my head what kind of respect I must accord to these people, but I don't know about this traditional authority because I must come to them whenever there are problems or anything. But I don't want to dwell too much on it because he also doesn't. But what is key for me, and this is what I want us to discuss, is, do you not think Judge Hlophe is presidential material? I know you're going to disagree with me because you're going to say he's old, he comes from the MK, you don't trust people from the MK, blah, 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 blah. But just look at him. Because today, I mean, I don't want to say he was ruffled. He was but he remained calm. He kept his calm. As emotional as he is with the president, because he is emotional. But he kept his calm. He didn't allow his anger to come out. I mean, Bugatin were taunting him and stuff, and well, he kept his eyes on the ball, and he was marvelous. His presidential material. He is presidential material, and I hope he keeps it that way. And it's just unfortunate he was given to us very late. Mahlatsi gave a speech. Wanda Mahlatsi, the doctor, he came here, he sat with us, and I know they've got an alliance with Azapo and PAC, and those are the guys by Israeli to Africa. Those are the most Pan-Africanist people we have, UAT. And he asked about Hlophe and stuff, but I don't want to dwell on it. So here's my disappointment. He did not call out PAC. And let me give him a benefit of that, or maybe still early. Maybe still early. I wanted him to call him out on him, not. But let me leave it at that. I don't want to make Africans fight, so that's not the purpose of this channel. I'm also waiting to see. Maybe let me give him a year. Let me have patience. I just don't think the PAC and their land. PAC is formed on the land, man. And DA and ANC do not want land, but he's working with them. But let me try. I'm just gonna be patient and let it be. But please, let's comment about Judge Hlophe, the brilliance of the man, the brilliance of Hlophe, who's going to champion this progressive unit that we found in Parliament, the people who are going to fight for us, African people in Parliament. They want it not to be fashionable for us to rely on a conclave of African parties who represent a black interest, a black bloc in Parliament. This African bloc that represents interest of African people, it's now in Parliament. We waited for a long time to see such things. Of course, UDM left and PAC left, but let's hope it grows. Mashani politically incorrect. Let's talk about. I'm just going to call him Judge Dr. Hlophe, because all this he deserves for the life. I mean, we're talking about someone's legacy. He's living his legacy. That's retirement age, but he's having this. He's having this this opportunity to live beyond retirement, like all judges, to live beyond retirement and still contribute to the world. I know I have in the past criticized having very old people who become presidents and stuff. If you were younger, I would say that's a potential president for us. But for now, if opportunities do arrive and Msholozi can't take the country, man, come on. If MK gets votes to send someone to Mahlatsi Hlophe to lead South Africa, if Msholozi can't, who else do you want to be in Parliament? No, who else do you want to be leading our country? Let's leave it there.
Inequality in South Africa. South Africa is a country which has a problem to do with inequality. It reported that 80% of the country's wealth was in the hands of 10% of the population. And it is the black population who factor most in the poorest category. The report places the blame for the income disparities directly on race. The legacy of colonialism and apartheid, rooted in racial segregation, continues to reinforce inequality in South Africa, the report stated. This is clear proof that the end of formal apartheid in 1994 did not end the real problems that we have in this country. And against that, I'm asking you, President, how are you hoping to sustain the so-called government of national unity when your interests are fundamentally and diametrically opposed in the so-called government of national unity? As the MK party, we are interested in genuine and real transformation of South Africa. This cannot simply mean having a nice, toothless constitution or so-called world's best constitution. We are not and can never be satisfied with our judges regurgitating Roman law, which was imported into this country through the genocidal force and forced down our throats. When we were colonized, we had our own systems of justice in place. African customary law, which is close to our heart. Colonization brought with it a foreign legal system, Roman Dutch law, and this was done in order to protect and preserve the interests of those who colonize us. I challenge you to tell me a single country in Europe which is governed by African law. A single country in Europe which is governed by African law. If you can't tell me, why do we allow Roman Dutch law, which does not reflect the views and the aspirations of the majority of the people in this country? Why do we allow that to be a system in place? Why? The conclusion is inescapable that that legal system is there to preserve the interests of the privileged white minority in South Africa at the expense of millions of poor black people that we represent in this parliament. It is our considered view that the speech that was delivered by the President yesterday fails on so many fronts. The President mentioned building infrastructure in rural areas. I don't know when that is going to start. He has never done it before. What would make us believe that he would suddenly now focus on rural areas as a priority? Why would he suddenly do that now? You have never done it before, Mr. President. It is our considered view that if we want to bring about fundamental changes, we need to invest in infrastructure, particularly in rural areas. Now, the problem is, where is money going to come from? Because we keep borrowing money every day, Mr. President. Our view is further that we need serious agrarian revolution in this country to turn things around in agriculture. We need agrarian revolution, which has been lacking. Rural areas in the main have not been taken seriously. Whilst, of course, the struggle continues for Section 25 of the Constitution to be amended. We are not apologetic about our stance. We remain firm. Section 25 of the Constitution must be amended. It is our considered view. Thank you. It must be amended to make provision for expropriation of land without compensation. That is the only way we can redress imbalances of the past and ensure that each and every South African has access to land in this country. Once there is access to land, so many of the problems that we have will be dealt with. For example, there will be no influx control. We all know people leave rural areas because they are not developed. They are poorly resourced. They leave rural areas, go to big cities like Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, looking for better opportunities. When they get there, there are no opportunities. But if land were to be restored to our people, they will be confined in those areas, provided they are developed. There will be no need for them to leave those areas and go to urban areas. Furthermore, access to land will ensure that everybody has bread on the table. I know there are members in some of the parties who say there is Ingonyama Trust land, for example, in KZN, and that land is not being used. That is clearly a lie. People who live in those areas are not dependent on your 350 rand per month, Mr. President. They are serious farmers. They practice subsistence farming in those areas. They are not dependent on your 350 rand for them to live. So we need to invest in agrarian revolution, make sure we turn things around. The other way of generating jobs, which is covered in our manifesto, we should reintroduce compulsory military training. That will absorb our young men and women who have no job and teach them to be disciplined. It will immediately turn things around. There is no question about it. We clearly need to reduce spending. It is very clear as a result of this bloated cabinet. It's all about blue lights. It's all about fancy cars, and you have forgotten the reason why you were elected, Mr. Ramaphosa, in the first place. We have forgotten the reasons. You have, to put it bluntly, you have sold out. We in the MK will continue to fight for Section 25 of the Constitution to be amended. We will continue to fight for the improvement of the quality of the life of our people, particularly those who live in rural areas, who are by and large black, and I'm using the term black generically. Until those aspirations, we will continue to fight. We will do it in a peaceful and lawful manner. There are parties here, some of them are in government, in the government of national unity. I've heard some people, ministers, advocating the death penalty. That is unconstitutional, and nobody has said they are acting unconstitutionally. The death penalty was outlawed in this country way back in 1995. Now, to find a cabinet minister advocating death penalty without the Constitution being amended is ridiculous. Where we come from in the MK party, we will continue to act within the law, and it is our right as politicians to act within the law so that the law can be changed, so that it will benefit the majority of the people in this country. Until such time that Africa and Africans are free, the struggle will continue. And insulting us and howling at us or pretending that we are talking nonsense is not going to help. As long as the question of land is not being addressed in this country, as long as the question of land is not being addressed seriously, as long as we are being